So today we're looking at something called the long and cross profile of the river, and we're going to apply what we've learned previously, so those fluvial processes, to explaining how a river actually shapes as it goes from its start, from its source, all the way down to its mouth where it ends. We are currently here, so still looking at those river processes, looking at the long profile and changing cross profile of a river and its valley. If you have a look at these two images, they're of the same river, but they're very, very different. So I want you to think, how are they different, but also why are they different? So the ways that they are different, this one has a steeper valley. This one has a flat valley. This one is narrow and it's quite shallow. This one is wider and it's deeper. This one, although it does wiggle a little bit, it doesn't bend, it doesn't meander as much as this one does here. And the reasons why they are different is because they're in different parts of the river. So this one is up near the source, it's up near its start, whereas this one is down near its end, near its mouth. And they look so different because of the different processes. Erosion, transportation, deposition occur in different amounts in different places, therefore the river looks different. So we'll start by looking at the long profile, and this is basically a kind of graph that shows you how the river changes from its source to its end. If we look at this diagram here, we can see this is the start of the river. It's where the land is high, so it's usually up in the mountains, up in the hills. It has quite a steep gradient. The land itself is steep, and we call that the upper course. As the river flows downhill, it flows into what we call the middle course. And this is where the gradient, it's less steep, so it's flatter. Not as steep as here, but it's getting flatter. We then go into the lower course. And this is where the gradient is the shallowest. So it's actually quite flat. You can see steep slope here, gets gradually less steep, least steep down here, near the mouth, near where it ends. And something we can use to explain this is called the Bradshaw model. And that's what this thing is here, you can see. So at the start of the river, near the source, upstream, we can see that the width of the channel is actually quite narrow. As you go downstream, the width, it gets wider. And that's the same with the depth. Upstream, near the source, it's not very deep. As you go downstream, the river gets deeper. Velocity, low upstream near the source, gets faster, gets quicker as you go downstream near the mouth. Then we get to the bottom part, and you can see this is the other way around. So the actual size of our particles, the size of our bed load, rocks, boulders, pebbles, they're larger in the upper course. They get smaller because of erosion as you go downstream. And then down here, the angle, the gradient, the slope, steeper here, greater here, decreases as you get downstream. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to have a go at drawing in your books, probably about half a page, your own long profile. So this is a simple diagram that you can draw. Please use pencil, please use a ruler. You need to show here where your elevation, where your height of your land is highest, have a label to show the source, with your steep gradient. As you go into your middle course, gentle gradient. As you get to your lower course, very gentle gradient. So once you've drawn that into your books, I want to answer these two questions. So what is the long profile? And how does the river change from source to mouth? You can use this Bradshaw model down here to explain in as much detail as you can. So try and include things like discharge, width, depth, velocity, etc. So pause the video whilst you have a go at that. When you're ready, press play and we will move on. So this diagram here, this shows you in a bit more detail how that river actually changes as we go downstream. So you've got the cross profile of the river. The long profile, remember, shows the gradient, the steepness from the source to the mouth. this actually takes a slice through the river at different points to show you how both the channel but also the valley change in shape. So this diagram here, A, this is in the upper course near the source of the river. B, in the middle course. C, down in your lower course. And it's quite clear from these that both your valley and your channel, they change shape as you go from the top down to the bottom. So in your books, can you please draw this table? I reckon you need probably half a page. So this table is gonna, I'm gonna do a sketch. We're also gonna do a description and an explanation of how that channel cross profile changes in the upper course, the middle course, and the lower course. So these are some of the diagrams you can use to fill in that top section. So this shows you that the cross profile of the channel, so the channel, we mean the area with the water is in, so the actual river itself. In the upper course here, you can see it's quite narrow, it's not very deep. As you get to your middle course, it gets wider, it gets deeper. You get to your lower course, it's the widest and also the deepest. But what you'll notice here is as the river gets wider and deeper, the amount of water it can hold gets larger. So if you can add on those three diagrams to your table. We're now going to fill in the description. So I want you to describe the shape in the upper course, shape, middle course, shape in the lower course. You can then start to explain why. So why does the channel look the way it does here? Why does it get wider? Why does it get deeper as you go downstream? So to give you some help with that, you can see that as it goes downstream, we actually get more tributaries, more smaller rivers join that main river. This means it gets more water, it gets more energy, therefore it has a higher velocity, and it can erode more. It can erode downwards vertically, it can erode sideways laterally. The river channel also becomes wider as you go downstream because the gradient's less. Remember, it's less steep. Therefore, as you go from here to here, you're going to have less vertical erosion and you're going to start to get more lateral erosion side to side, causing that river to get wider. So pause the video while you're filling your description and your explanation. When you're ready, you can press play and we'll move on. So I've done the channel. Now we're going to move on and we're going to look at the valley profile. So this is the bit that is not in the water. Your valley is these sloping sections that you can see that are outside of the river channel. So what you've got here, this is called a V-shaped valley. It's called a V-shaped valley because it looks like a V look. That's its shape. So I'd now like you to have a go at drawing another table. This time it's called the valley cross profile. So it's the same in that we've got the upper course, the middle course, the lower course. We've also got the sketch of the valley shape, the description, and your explanation. So I think probably half a page for this as well. So first stage, you are going to draw yourself a little diagram that goes in here, and I'll talk you through what that should look like. So up across the river, you can see steep slopes, steep sloping, creating that V-shaped valley. As you get into your middle course, you can see you haven't got those steep V's. You've still got some kind of higher land here, but generally it's a bit more gradually sloping. It's not as steep. It's not as V-shaped as it was before. And then as we get into our lower course, you can see that actually we don't really have any slopes at all. We've just got a wide, flat floodplain surrounding that river. No V-shape whatsoever. And the reason that happens is because in your middle course, that river isn't just flowing straight, it's starting to become wider and it's actually starting to meander. It's starting to erode sideways, and that causes the river to snake along that floodplain. It's not eroding vertically, it's not eroding downwards as much. Instead, it's starting to erode side to side, and it's actually starting to deposit some of that bed load it's carrying as well. Down in your lower course, that river isn't eroding downwards as much here. It's eroding most in side to side, so laterally. There's also a lot of deposition, so that river is starting to drop all of that sand, silt that it's been carrying since the start of the river. So on your table, you can now add on your description, what it looks like, and your explanation as to why it is that shape. Once you've finished, you can press play and you can check your work off against these answers. So as you can see, upper course, steep-sided, narrow, V-shaped valley, because there's lots of vertical erosion. Middle course, your valley becomes wider with a small floodplain, more gently sloping sides. This is because the river is flowing through lower area, less steep gradient. The river starts to meander, so erode side to side laterally, making it wider. Lower course, you have that floodplain either side. It's a very wide and it's a flat valley. That's because the gradient is low, so it's not sloping. It's reaching the sea. You're starting to get deposition building up that floodplain, and those meanders are moving, they're migrating across that floodplain, making the river valley wider. So I'll give you 2 minutes now. If there's anything that you perhaps are missing, anything that you haven't got on your long profile or on your tables, you can add it from this. And final thing I'd like to do today, I want you to bring together all the stuff that we've learnt to answer this question. How and why does a river change downstream? So I've given you a list of key terms: channel, valley, width, depth, velocity, erosion, deposition. There are more. Please feel free to add some of your own if you wish. You've then got some of our triggers, so some of our connectives that help us explain our points. This means that leading to, therefore, as a result. So I'd like to have a go at answering this question. Use your work from today. Use the diagrams at the bottom of the slide. If you can, so if at all possible, I would like you to read your answer to somebody at home. They're going to listen to what you say, and they're going to give you a point for each keyword, each trigger that you manage to include. If you can leave me a comment with how many points you actually achieved. Right, until next time, bye.